Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Jump In Let's Play. In today's episode we'll be taking a look at King of Monster Island. Came out in the latter part of 2022. So let's head down, take a look at how the game is played and then come back for our final thoughts. See you in a moment, guys. So here we are, set up ready for a two-player game of King of Monster Island. As always, we'll go through everything and then give you a few turns of play as an example of the playthrough. So we've got a fair bit on this board, a little bit more than the usual King of games, but we will do our best to get through this as quickly as possible. So we'll start with our main board. This is our island, all set up, ready to go. The island is divided into 6 zones. Each zone has 2 spaces for these ships, which can help you, and 3 spaces for crystals to go. In the middle, we have the dice tower for the monsters' dice. So those will get thrown in the top and will be distributed amongst the 6 different zones. When we set up, we place the boss monster in one zone, and then we place a minion randomly from our bag into each zone, finally placing our chosen characters on a zone each as well. Round the edge of the board, up here we've got the bosses area, so we've got the bosses card. So this will be all of his different abilities as he gains fame. This will tell us how many dice he's starting with, his starting health, and every boss comes with a before movement special ability. We've got the bag with all of the minions in them, so we will be drawing from this as and when we need to draw minions. We've got his pylons here, so if they manage to get 3 of these crystals in the bottom, they get to create a pylon on one of the 2 ship spaces. The boss's monster board, and then their dice here as well. So the dice have got a few different faces, so if you're familiar with King of Tokyo, King of New York, these will be slightly different but familiar. So each side will do a different action based on what comes up. So here, that puts a crystal into their zone. This one gives the boss monster fame and also brings out a minion into his zone. And then this one's 2 minions, for example, 2 fame. Next we have our stack of cards. So these are abilities that can be used. As per the usual games, we have 3 placed in front of the marketplace for everyone to use at the end of their goes. As I mentioned, we've got our ships here that can be used to help us defeat the boss and his minions. Our energy cubes, spare energy cubes, which are multiples of 10, and the small crystals. And then we've got our familiar dice. So these are slightly different. So we have the attack in this one now worth 2. We have the movement, which is allows you to move 1 space or attack for 1. We've got this wrench here. This is what allows you to buy these. Fame, as normal, will let you get fame. However, we'll touch on that in just a moment. And then we've got the energy, which again works in a very similar way to the original games. That one is slightly different as well. There's a lot of dice here, but that's because when you roll dice, you still roll your 6 dice per turn, but you can store dice in these areas as well. Finally, we come to the player boards. Nothing changed here. Fame in the corner, health in the bottom corner, and then we have these new cards. These are potential allies that we could call upon. So when we accrue fame, we can actually spend this fame to recruit a group of allies who will be able to help us in our battle against the boss monster. On the back here, it just gives us a little rundown of everything as well. So if you need to, you do have that on the back of one of the sheets. So with the energy, as we mentioned, it works slightly differently. So the more energy that you get, you can see here that it actually increases quite largely across the different amounts of dice. So that is everything, and we are set up to play. So we begin with the boss. So the turn goes boss monster player, and we'll keep going until either side wins. So these dice are just going to be chucked into here. There we go. So we take a look. We've got one dice that's come out round here, one dice here, one here, one here, one here, all on different faces. So now that we've done that, we also needed to check for the before movement phase. So that happens just before. Do forgive me there. So before movement, which we tend to forget on the first turn because it largely doesn't matter, but he deals 1 damage to the monsters with the most health in this or adjacent zones. So that'll be why we forgot on our very first turn there's no one in or next to his zone. So we've rolled our dice. We then move the boss. So the way that the boss moves is they move to the next zone with the most amount of dice. So if it's tied, we move it to the one with the most minions. If it's tied for the most minions, we just move the boss to the one that is furthest clockwise. So we are coming here. So our boss moves around to this one. Now that he's done that, we activate the minions here. So this minion is the cannon, and that gives an ability of every monster in every zone takes 1 damage. So we're going to be taking 1 damage, and Megamoth as well is going to be taking 1 damage. So already we are down 1 without even having had our turn yet. So said these boss phases can be pretty brutal to you. We now activate the dice in the boss's zone, so we are activating this one. So the boss gets 1 fame. So he moves up to 1 fame, and then when you check on here, you will see that he's now got this ability, fast moving, unlocked. So if he moves to a zone with no dice, he continues moving. So very interesting. If there's it comes down to the tiebreakers, he will carry on moving to the next dice, and then he also draws a minion out of the bag and places that in his zone. So we've got another cannon guy there. And now this dice, because it's been used, goes back into the boss monster's pool of dice for him to use for the next turn. So we go over to the players now. So this bit is going to be very, very familiar to you, if not just a change of some of the die faces. So we have our 6 dice. We are going to roll these, and then as with all the other games, we're going to pick what we would like to do here. So we have got 2 attack, because that now represents 2 attack. We have ourselves 2 fame. So if we just double check here, so you see we get +1 fame for that. And we've got at the moment 3 energy rather than 2 with the original games. So we've got this shield minion here. So we would need to defeat him before any other minions or the boss in this zone. So we would like to get rid of that. So let's re-roll these 3 for now, because those will be useful to us. Okay, there we go. So that's the extra one that we do want. And then let's re-roll this one. And we've got another movement. So we've got a quite a few options here. So now we're going to resolve our dice. So we're going to get ourselves 3 of those. We're going to have 1 fame, so we move up 1 fame, and we will deal with that in just a moment. And then we've got 2 attack or 4 attack or 2 movement here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take these 2 and attack this one. That chucks him back into the bag. And we've used those dice. We've got this one here. So now we can decide we would like to move. If we do, we spend the dice, we move to the next zone, either side. or if we would like to, we can store it here and bank it for a later turn, hence the reason why we have the extra dice for people. But what we're going to do for the moment is we are going to move here just in case of any issues that may come up soon. So that is Megamoth's turn done. We now move to the boss monsters phase. So now we double check his movement. There's no adjacent players, so we ignore that. And he does now have his fast moving. So when we roll this dice and then we move the boss, depending on what happens, he may carry on moving. So let's throw this dice in here. So we've got a dice around here. So he is now going to move. There is no dice here. There is one here. So he is going to move back into his original zone. Once we've done that, we activate the minion in that zone. So this one is a crystal minion, a builder. So that is going to build one of these in there. So this is going to have two effects on the players. It's going to start a little clock for us, because when we get 3 of these in a region, we create one of these. And also now we have a space less to place our dice. So as crystals go in, it reduces our options to store dice in different areas. So now that we've done that, we now do the dice here. And this one is a crystal. So we're going to be taking another crystal and placing that in this area as well. So now they only need one more crystal before they build one of these pylons. So we'll go to Rex Flore's turn. And then he will draw his 6 dice and we will go. So let's take a look. So we've got 2 of these. Those might be useful actually, because we may need to use those soon. We've got an attack there, which can get rid of this guy. Let's re-roll these ones. Okay, there's another one of those. We've got a lightning and a healing. Let's roll those, see if we can get ourselves an attack. There's the attack and 1 heal. So Rex Flore is going to heal 1. And then he's going to attack for 4, so that gets rid of this guy. And we've got 3 of these. So that means that we get to take one of these and add it into the 3 area. So these ships, what that means is that this is a sort of temporary boost for you. So you can add a movement or attack into your dice pool as if you had rolled it. You also get an energy cube as well. So that is the end of his turn. So it would move back to the boss monster. And then it will just keep going back and forth until one of 3 endgame scenarios happens. The boss monster has 3 of these out on the board. One of the players is reduced to 0 health, or the boss monster is reduced to 0 health. So 1 way to win and a few ways there to lose. The other thing that we didn't really touch upon on these is with the fame here. So when you do get your fame, you do get to pick one of these available allies, and a bit like the boss monsters card, as it moves up in fame, it's going to give you more and more powers. So this one, for example, Megamoth could pick one of these and take a look and see which one you'd want to go for. Shield minions have -2 health on your turn, which would be quite useful. Gain 2 energy at the beginning of your buy power cards phase, and if you roll at least 1 heal, you get an extra heal. And then obviously at the end of every player's turn, if they would like to, they can spend their energy as normal to buy one of the available cards up here. So that is everything for a quick rundown of the game itself. We'll head back up top and discuss our final thoughts. So there we have it, a quick playthrough guide to the setup and example of a couple of rounds of play for King of Monster Island. So here now we're just going to go through the game components, the gameplay itself, and then my own personal final thoughts on the game. So game-wise, it's very much in keeping with the standard that we've had from King of Tokyo and the board game industry at large. Our rulebook is very well laid out. We've got great examples in here and a good breakdown of the flow of the gameplay as well. I love how thematic it is as well with the rulebook. See with the sort of news screen on there with some bits running along the bottom. The board itself isn't too busy, so let's just open that one up here. So they've made the board not big enough that you've got areas to place everything without obscuring other parts of the game. These cubes here for the dice and for the ships and pylons, again, very clear in the game. They're not playing about with the islands, they're not obscuring anything, nothing's obscuring them, so really like that. The cards, the cardboard chits are very clear as well. I said the dice, they're King of Tokyo dice with subtle differences. Again, very clear on each of the dice faces. The biggest one for me really is the dice tower, which is absolutely amazing, produces a nice 3D element to the game, gives it some depth and a bit of dynamics, as well as the dice roller for the boss monster. Really is a nice centerpiece to the entire game. Makes you really feel that there is something that we are fighting around, so really do like that. Onto the rules themselves. Well, if you've played King of Tokyo or King of New York, most of this is going to be second nature to you at this point. You're going to be rolling dice, you get a chance to re-roll those dice with the major inclusion of the boss phase between each of the player phases. Even with the boss phase, fairly simple step-by-step guide. The boss is going to do their before movement, they're going to roll dice, move, they're going to activate minions and then activate any dice that are on the board as well. So a nice flow of pace there, which means that there's not going to be a lot of downtime because there are clear instructions as to how the boss moves in their phase. So really do like that. In fact, as I said, we don't have a lot of downtime in the game. Comparing it to other games, previous games in the series, I think that this one sort of stands out a bit more in terms of the strategy of the game. You can play this with 2 players and still have a really satisfying strategic tactical game. In the previous entries, like King of Tokyo, there is sometimes a bit of a sort of back and forth slogfest if you're just playing 2 players. I roll the dice, you hit me, and so on and so forth. Which you don't really get in this one because you're both playing against someone else. And there's always something to consider. There's always the minions to consider. Are we going to store dice? Are we going to move around to try and attack the boss monster? There's a lot of variables there. And I do like talking about that, the fact that you get to store dice as well. In King of Tokyo, there was a little bit more kind of luck involved in rolling your dice, so if you ended up after your third roll with 1 or 2 dice that were useless, that was that. You couldn't do anything else with it. However, with this, I might have a heart, and that's actually useless to me at the moment, but I can bank that in my zone. Obviously, you only have limited spaces in your zone, and those do diminish if crystals do pop up there. But having that as a mechanic within the game just adds a little bit of something extra to it. Means that you or another player throughout the game can take that dice. So I really do like that. There's a lot of forward planning in this game as well. The other thing to touch upon, which I think is absolutely amazing, I'm glad that they've done it, is that all the monsters in this, including the boss monsters really, are completely compatible with all other versions of the game. So you want to go take Mothman or Rex Flore into King of Tokyo or King of New York, you can do that. You want to bring the King, Gigazor, Cthulhu, whoever into King of Monster Island, you can do that too and play exactly the same game. The only slight difference is that the monsters for King of Monster Island don't have their own power-up cards, so you wouldn't be able to play with the power-up expansions. However, the fact that they've had that compatibility between all the different editions just gives it a lot more versatility as well. You can try out, what would it be like if King Kong jumped in? You might even be able to maybe play games of King of Monster Island with the monsters that do have the power-up cards, chucking those in there as well. Maybe playing a harder boss, who knows, but maybe have a go and let me know what you think. So that is everything for King of Monster Island. Easily, for me, my favourite edition in the series so far. Absolutely fun for all the points that I've just brought up. And this one, for me personally, will probably be the one that I pull out if I've got people that would like to play this with me. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was of use. Any questions, do pop them in the comments below. And thank you for watching.